Hey folks, so in this video I wanted to do some very simple TA to just point out some very key levels that you should be aware of. Now you may notice that I'm going on different charts. I'm not really using Webull anymore because I did notice that Webull was using basically incorrect data. So sometimes I would see a wick that was ever so slightly different from all the other charting websites. So that kind of bothered me. So I'm definitely now using a different charting system. And right now I'm actually using Thinkorswim. So Thinkorswim, it's just a little bit complicated, but I'm navigating around it. So hopefully, I'll get a little bit used to it and we could do actually some better charting. So right now I'm looking at the NASDAQ 100. And the reason why I'm looking at the NASDAQ 100 instead of QQQ is because I want the exact numbers. I don't want to deal with an ETF that's actually, paying out dividends and things of that nature because sometimes it could slightly vary. So right now I'm looking at the weekly time frame. So that is actually the 5-year time frame. So every single candlestick is 1 week. And I applied the 200-day moving average. So this is the 200 weekly moving average. So right now the 200 weekly is actually sitting at 11,179 and 53. We closed at 11,164.78. So on the NASDAQ 100, we are closing underneath the 200 weekly moving average. But today is Thursday, so it's not as important if it closes underneath today. If it closes underneath tomorrow, then we could potentially be in some pretty big trouble. Now, this is a pretty key level, so sometimes, we might not see imminent danger if we cut underneath it. Sometimes we may actually see something more of a chop back and forth between that major area, and then we'll either see a decisive move to the downside or a decisive move to the upside. So sometimes, these things like to mess around these key levels. So definitely do have this number written down somewhere or do have it on your chart. Now we're going to go ahead, we're going to look at the next one. And this is the SPX. So this is following the S&P 500. So if I'm looking at the 200 weekly, that is sitting right at 3,589.62. So we close at 364 or 3,640.47. So, we have a little bit of wiggle room on the SPX. And then now I'm going to look at XLF. This is the financial sector. So the 200 weekly is right at 30.78. We closed at 30.64. So ideally by the end of the week, we want to be closing above 30.78. Otherwise, we could see a crackdown in the financials. Now, lastly, I want to look at the VIX. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit for you guys just so you guys can see this a little bit better. So right now we do have this resistance right here. But then pay attention to this trend line right here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Now notice what this trend line is doing. It's catching this top. It's catching this top perfectly. It also caught this top perfectly. And we are basically drawing this doji. And we are so very close to this trend line. Now if I'm to just slightly draw this ever so slightly differently, we could actually be right on the trend line for all I know. But this is kind of how I'm drawing it right now. And it's hitting these 3 major points. So this point, and this point. And we're basically right on this line right here. So we are basically doing an indecision candle because tomorrow, we do get a data drop. So I'll go ahead and show you that data drop right here. So we get US core PCE coming in tomorrow. Now this is already kind of forecasted to come in a little bit hot. So we are definitely pricing some of that in. But what I'm a little bit more curious about is, even if it comes in as expected or ever so slightly higher, is the market just going to do an overreaction when it's already oversold? And then is that going to cause everything to just tumble down? So that is one of the things I am a little bit worried about. Now, the next thing I'm definitely worried about is FX revisions. So back here in June, Microsoft, they did an FX update earlier in the month. So they basically reported later in the month, but early in the month, they gave us a revision on their foreign exchange effects. So the dollar has definitely been very, very strong, and we've seen this. The dollar is very strong right now, and we're just continuously increasing interest rates faster than all of these other countries. So, the dollar is probably going to continue to be strong. So my worry is come early October, we may see all these companies um, come out with an 8K report that's basically revising their foreign exchange numbers. So that could definitely spook the markets a little bit. So that's definitely one of the things I'm paying attention to. And definitely, you guys have those numbers written down, those 200 weekly moving averages. So I'll go through them again. So for NASDAQ 100, we're looking at 11,179.53. For S&P 500, we are looking at 3,589.62. XLF, we are looking at 3078. And if we're looking at the VIX, ideally we would want to be closing underneath this trend line. And then, hopefully we could see a drawback all the way down to this support trend line. So if that did happen, that would be somewhere around this 25 area. But right now, ideally, we would want to be underneath 32. So kind of where we are right now. If we can continue down, that would be great. So hope this video was helpful to you guys, and have a good one.